What's going on, y'all? It's JD Pickell. Today on the Hard Count, Arch Manning is apparently focusing on 5 schools. Which ones are they, and where's he going? We'll discuss. Welcome into CFB with JD, the People's Channel for every single thing that you know and that you love about college football. Happens here, happens nearly every single day. Armstrong, Sims, Jack McKenzie, they do the real heavy lifting, and you drive the show. One way you can help drive the show, my Twitter, at JD Pickell. We try to incorporate as much opinion and input as possible, and that's a really easy medium for y'all to get that to us, so make sure you're following there. Arch Manning, according to On3 Sports, is focusing on 5 schools. Now, there's been other reports that he was down to 2. We'll elaborate on that in just a second. We did a video on that on this channel already, but let's talk about these 5 schools that he's apparently focusing on right now. Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Clemson. Those 5 in, to what I understand, no particular order. Now, Arch Manning is someone who's very quiet on social media. He's not very outspoken. He's not going to give you his cards, is what we're saying here. So a lot of this is going to be speculation, and we're going to just have to trust the reports that we get. On3 Sports is a very reputable source, so we're going to run with this. Let's just break down these 5, okay? Texas, I'll start there. Rumored to be one of his top 2, which is a report that came out a while ago. Again, I was never on board with that. We broke that down anyway. But Texas is someone that has continued to be in the Arch Manning conversation and has continued to float around that upper tier of schools he's interested in. So this is confirming that. The pros, he has been very outspoken, which is saying something for Arch Manning, and he's, like, again, not a very outspoken guy. Steve Sarkisian is a football genius. That's a quote from Arch Manning. That means something because for Arch Manning, for these schools, for wherever he ends up, similar to the Caleb Williams situation, it's going to be about development. He understands that college is going to be a chapter. It's going to be a chapter that is leading to the next chapter of the NFL, which is what I think, not to say he really cares about that, but that's the goal. That's how the kid's going to take care of his own kids, take care of his own family. That's where he's going to make his real money. So he's not worried about NIL as much. He's not worried as much about, where he's going to be able to play the earliest. It might have something to do with it, but he's worried about how can I be the best possible prospect for the NFL draft when it's my time to go. And Steve Sarkisian, being the football genius that he is, according to Arch Manning, that's a huge pro. The potential con could be culture, okay? So we're going to see how this shakes out in year 2 under Sark, but Arch Manning's a guy that I think wants to be somewhere where he can flourish and flourish quickly. It's not to say he wants to be on the field as a true freshman, not to say that he's not okay sitting back and waiting his turn, but there better be fertile soil for him to grow in. And if it's bad culture, if it's guys that are continuing to transfer in and out, it's kind of that revolving door, I think that could be something that is off-putting to him. Again, NIL, be careful with that if you're Texas. He has enough good sense about him to where that's not going to be his big determining factor. But I think culture is something that would eventually be something that could scare him away. Not saying it is, something that will just be something to keep an eye on, okay, if you catch my drift there. Now, Georgia, the other school that was in the conversation to them in Texas. Like, that was the report at one point. Hey, it's down to Georgia and Texas. We don't think that's true. This proves more or less it's not true. The pro there is you're going to win games, okay? Case in point, won the national title this year. And Todd Monken, who's the offensive coordinator right now, has an NFL pedigree. He's been around the league. He knows what it takes for Arch Manning to be a successful NFL quarterback. So if you go and connect yourself as Arch Manning to a guy like Todd Monken, he's going to give you all of the input that you need to make sure you're ready come draft day. And again, if that's what this is all about, that could be a very big deal. So pay attention to those two. Sark and Todd Monken, huge names to keep an eye on because of the development aspect they can have with Arch Manning. One of the cons, I think, for Georgia, and this is kind of being nitpicky, I don't think this is how we're viewing it, but the competition in the SEC is going to be brutal. Okay, so that's a double-edged sword. If you play great, awesome. You check a lot of boxes for NFL scouts. If you don't play well, which is very, very possible against the NFL junior, could hurt you a little bit, obviously. That's a no-duh kind of statement, saying you might not play well against the SEC. The point that I'm trying to make here is the defenses in the SEC are more treacherous than those that are in the ACC. Okay, that's not something that I think is up for debate. That's not something that is an incendiary thing to say. There is just tougher competition in the SEC defensively. Okay, so for Arch Manning, if putting good stuff on tape is your goal, again, I'm just saying it's something to look at. I'm not saying this is how he's thinking about it. It's something to look at that could potentially bode less well for you. Alabama, the third school that we're looking at here. Similar to Georgia, you're winning. Okay, you're winning and you have great development in Nick Saban. The con is the staff turnover. You're going to have a different offensive coordinator the majority of the time at Alabama. I mean, look at the last 5 years, how many different coordinators they've gone through. Now, the benefit is those coordinators end up going on to be head coaches at Power 5 programs, but in terms of the consistency and continuity you're going to get, that's going to be something that I don't think Arch Manning is going to love. He wants to be with the same guy, I would assume, for the duration of his college career. Someone that's going to bring him up as a freshman and allow him to be successful, stick with him till he gets into his later years. Next, Ole Miss. The pro is Lane Kiffin and his offense. I mean, we've seen time and time and again what he's been able to do with quarterbacks. Now, he's not calling plays, but he's still a guy that I think as a quarterback, you have to be attracted to his system and what he offers you. The cons, it's not Bama or Georgia in the SEC. And I understand that's going to be controversial for a lot of you to hear. But if you're in the SEC and you're not playing for a Georgia, you're not playing for Alabama, the way that modern college football is shaped right now, you're probably pitching for third place in the SEC. Now, does an Arch Manning change your program and change the outlook of the SEC as a whole? Could very well be. But if you want to be really nitpicky right now, Ole Miss is a place that you can say, well, how much are you going to win, right? Could be a lot, but I think you're walking into a program that's a little less built out than a Georgia or an Alabama as it is today. Finally, Clemson. And the pro for Clemson, and the pro for a lot of these places is the coaches, but Dabo Swinney's culture is, to my best estimate, what is attractive to Arch Manning. Because on the inverse of Texas, Clemson is a place where you have people that care about you as a person. I'll say they don't care about you as a person at Texas, but it's going to be much more easy to grow at a place like Clemson. Now, again, let me circle back. I am not saying they don't care about you as a person at Texas. What I'm saying is the culture is more built out at Clemson and more conducive to a player to grow, okay? So make sure you get that right there before you come at me in the comments. So the growing culture could be something that he loves. They've won there. I think they're going to win again in the future. I don't think it takes much for that program to get right. But if you're worried about anything, you got a new OC, Brandon Streeter. Never really done it before, and he's going to be the guy calling plays for you. So you're trusting someone who has no experience calling plays to call plays for Arch Manning in the future. Now, by the time he gets to Clemson, obviously Brandon Streeter would have had more experience, but he's going to be the less experienced offensive coordinator you're siding with than somebody else in this group. So we'll see how that shakes out. A lot of these things are hard to gauge because truly the pros and cons, they could be wildly different this time next year. We could have different coaches at a number of these different schools. Who knows how long, Sark gets at Texas? Who knows how long Dabo wants to stay at Clemson? Like, there's a bunch of things that are in play here. We're wildly speculating because, one, we can, and two, there's not a ton of hard evidence out there right now indicating which way he's leaning. Like I said, there was a report out there already saying, hey, Texas and Georgia, that's the Arch Manning sweepstakes. It's just those two. We never bought into that. Also, Oklahoma, a school that offered him, I believe, after this top five was leaked, if you will, I could see them being in the running too. He's not in a hurry to make a decision. He's not in a hurry to rush into any, immediate school or commitment. He's going to take his time. It's going to play itself out. You better believe that Arch Manning has a good head on his shoulders, and to the same token has a really good counsel around him. So wherever school he picks, you better believe they'll be very much vetted, and they will be a place where everybody in his camp believes is the best spot for him to develop and grow to be an NFL quarterback, and likely, I say likely as it's 2022, the first pick in the NFL draft when it's his time. That's it for us here on the Hard Count. Appreciate you tuning in. Now, subscribe to the channel, which we appreciate you doing in advance, and make sure you're following us on Twitter, @JD Piquel. We'll keep the party rolling. We will see y'all next time.